That's the first album from Thin Lizzy. Look What the Wind Just Blew In is the name of that song. The album is simply called Thin Lizzy. So I'm going to go back a little bit earlier, Philip, for this one. That is back as far.
You can't go back earlier than that.
I can go back as far as the Black Eagles.
Oh,
so tell us about the
maybe
Black
you can.
Eagles, Brian Downey and Peter on vocals, and we'll say like around 63, 64. Like, how did that all start? How did you meet Brian? How did it all get together? I know it's been well documented everywhere else, but it's never been on the rock show before.
We used to play around. We were both in bands, just local bands playing around, and we were looking for a drummer that could play a backbeat, which is like independence of the bass drum and the snare. And the best way we could do that was with was with "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks, because that had that dunk 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 dunk. You see, so Brian Downey had seen us a few times, and we'd seen him. So we put the word out, and he came down to auditions, and we rehearsed in the thing. The minute he could play that beat, he had the job. Besides, he said he had a tom-tom, which the other drummer didn't have at the time, so that's how. Then we found out that we were going to the same school, and that we knew each other. So.
Yeah. So like then after that came Skid Row with Bruce Shields and Ted Carroll and yourself.
Yeah, but Brian didn't join Skid Row. He went off to be with the Sugar Shack.
The Sugar Shack.
Yeah.
And like, what about Benny Cheevers? He was there on guitar as well.
Yeah, he was in the original one, yeah.
And then it was Gary Moore who came in, right? So
Yeah.
where are we now then? Like, what was the lineup when Gary came in?
Nullick Bridgman on drums, Brush on bass and vocals, myself on vocals, and Gary Moore on guitar.
Well, like, what was it like in those early days? Because you've always admitted that you were into image more than anything else in those days. Is that true?
Yeah,
Totally.
totally.
And like, what about then the band Orphanage after that? Did the band Orphanage come after that business of like with all those people first? Like you had Gary and you had Brian, and then a band called Orphanage
Yeah,
with Pat Quigley and Joe Staunton
yeah, that's it.
and Brian Downey
Yeah, and Terry Woods.
and Terry Woods as well. Did Terry Woods actually play in a band?
Yeah, we
with you,
did
or
one
just-
gig in John O'God's, and he got up and he played Cluck O'Ham with the Railroad Man, and
Right.
another one, I forget now. But we had a few of them, and the object was that people could come and have a blow with us and didn't have to be in the band and stuff.
Yeah.
Because at that time, a lot of the folk artists were getting interested by the electronics, So,
Yeah.
at the time we thought like we were the band that could help them out in that respect, but it didn't work out that way,
Well, like around this time, then Eric Bell came along as well, and like you were very impressed with the way he had played. He had come down from the north.
Yeah, he was
So-
with the Dream Show band at the time.
Yeah, that's right. And like he was a better guitarist than what you had in the band at the time. So he decided to just bring in Eric and form.
No,
Thin
it's
Lizzy.
just basically I wanted to play bass myself, and Eric was prepared to form a band where I could play the bass, so I hopped out of one and into the other,
Yeah. And why did Eric leave the band?
The Dreams.
Yeah, no.
Thin Lizzy?
Yeah.
I just got tired of the pressure, the touring and that, and after the success of Whiskey in the Jar, there was an awful lot of pressure on the band to
Yeah.
keep, people wanted us to record It's a Long, Long Way to Tipperary rocked up, or Danny Boy rocked up, which we did with Black Rose. But, people wanted us to do that, and everybody was coming up and telling us what we should be doing. And it wasn't going too well, and the pressure, like we were flying out to France to mime to records, and
Yeah.
Eric just wanted to play the guitar, really, and couldn't understand why like you had to do these sort of things,
Well,
so in the end it just got to him, and he said, and his amp started feeding back on New Year's Eve, so he kicked over his amp and walked out the stage. The audience loved it, they thought it was part of the act.
Right, because like a lot of the like contemporary Dublin bands that I have in the program, like they always say, well, listen, we have to go to London sooner or later. We're going to have to go, and an awful lot of them have stayed around for 2 or 3 years here. Whereas when Thin Lizzy formed in 1970, Ted Carroll brought you over to Britain in 71. Now, like by the time, in other words, that you were like young enough still as a band, you were suddenly in London. So like, were those pressures? Did they affect yourself and Brian as much as they might have affected Eric?
Yeah, in a way, but I mean, it didn't get to us. Our amps didn't feed back on that night.
Because it did take a long time to get that hit single, Whiskey in the Jar.
Yeah.
And then after that, things didn't work out the way they should have at all, because you
Things
didn't
didn't
get
work out on the farm at all.
on the
no.
farm at all. No, because like you didn't get a hit with Randolph's Tango or anything like that.
Yeah,
And
we weren't too bothered though, because at the time there was this big thing about you were an LP band or you were a pop band, you know, and we preferred to have the integrity than have the success.
Yeah, because like you were, like, even as a teenager, you were the lead singer with Skid Row, and like that was in the days of Brush, say, and like after that, then Thin Lizzy were not meant to be as big as Skid Row. Skid Row were the band who were going to make it. So did you feel like proud of the fact that you made it before, say, Skid Row did, in terms of like?
Well, Skid Row actually did have that first album sort of charted really high, and they had a great reputation. I mean, in England when we went over. And for a while, like, we lived off it, you know, like, yeah, I used to be in Skid Row and everybody got
Yeah, that's true.
You
Like,
know?
after 34 hours, like, nothing much happened with Skid Row at all.
Well, you can make an album in 34 hours, you can imagine what it sounded like. You know, but it was nothing against the band. The band were really going down well live, you know. And the breaks just didn't go their way, you know, whereas they went their way. I mean, such a fluke with Whiskey in the Jar, because that was supposed to be a B-side. And then, because of the success of that, people like kept an interest in us, and we were able to get good enough on stage to do a good live act. And then we've always had a good rep for doing a good live show. So even if the records weren't going well, we could tick over with the live show. You know, because with a three-piece band, there wasn't that many overheads, so we could keep it going.
Well, when Eric left, Gary Moore joined, and like he didn't stay too long.
Yeah, well, that was temporary. You like, Eric left in the middle of a tour, and we had a tour to finish, so Gary jumped in. And
so he was never meant to be a permanent replacement.
No.
Like
he had visions of playing with John Heisman then, you see, even then.
Even then.
Yeah.
Like, it was years later he went back when Heisman got Coliseum together again.
Yeah, well, he was trying then to get it together. Him and Heisman were trying then to get a band together.
Right, but like then Gary left the band as well, like, obviously, because like he wasn't a full-time member, and Ted Carroll left you all as well. So like what? Like,
no,
what?
Ted stayed around for a while, because what we did was we'd made a few demo tapes, and our contract with Decca Records was up, and they were going to re-sign us, and Vertigo came around, and they heard the tapes, and Nigel Grange, who eventually started Enzyme Records, he heard the tapes and he really liked them. He was working with Vertigo at the time, and we told him that it was the two new guitarists in the band, which it wasn't. It was Gary Moore on the things. But on that, they made us an offer. So once we got the album deal, Ted stuck around till we paid our debts, and then he got out and started his record shop. And by that time, we'd found Scott and Brian Robertson, and we went in and did the first album, Nightlife.